Talk about sticker shock. Hello, everybody. David Shuster reporting. Donald Trump and his border czar now revealing how much taxpayer money they need just to start migrant deportations. This is your warning to turn off the video or leave the room if you're prone to nauseousness, dizziness, or heart attacks. Are you ready? Here is Trump border czar Tom Homan with Fox Business host David Asman.
Give us a number of what you're going to need, what you're going to go to Congress to ask for.
I was asked that the other day, is $86 billion enough? $86 billion is a start.
$86 billion. That is 4 times the annual budget of the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. It is 6 times as much as the entire annual budget of the U.S. Coast Guard. It is 7 times as much as the entire annual budget of the Transportation Security Administration. You know, the TSA, those people try to block terror attacks on aircraft and at every U.S. commercial airport. $86 billion just to start deporting Latinos whose crime was entering the United States illegally.
We need at least that to do this operation. We got to buy beds. We got to have we got to do removal flights and ground transportation and medical care. The people we arrest. $86 billion is a start.
In other words, that's just to get the deportation program going. And just starting the deportations at $86 billion is 3 times the total amount of taxpayer dollars spent each year through Pell Grants and federal aid that helps low-income Americans attend college. The $86 billion to start deporting undocumented migrants is the same figure as the entire budget this past year for the U.S. State Department. The entire State Department budget, including the Foreign Aid Program, USAID. That means just starting to deport migrants is as much of a priority for the Trump team as all U.S. diplomatic efforts around the globe to promote and sustain democracy. Here's another comparison. In 2024, the total amount of aid the United States sent to Ukraine in their war against Russian invaders was $61 billion. So U.S. taxpayers are being asked for even more money to remove Latinos from the United States homeland than taxpayers are sending each year to Ukraine to try to remove Russian invading troops. Now, according to the Trump team, the deportations will save U.S. taxpayers money because America will no longer be paying for the migrants' transportation, medical care, and housing. Never mind that the roundups and deportations will require paying for transportation, medical care, and housing.
This operation will be expensive, but in the long run, it's going to save taxpayers money. But we need more resources. I pray that Congress, during the reconciliation period, gives us a budget to do this with.
The reaction from several members of Congress has been a mix of shock and horror. Democrats are pointing out that according to federal crime statistics, undocumented migrants in the United States commit fewer violent crimes than people born in the United States. In other words, migrant communities are safer and more peaceful. Also, deporting migrant workers can have a huge cost to the U.S. economy. Undocumented migrants account for nearly half of all the farm workers in California. Deporting even a fraction will interrupt supply chains and cause productivity to drop, sending produce prices for consumers skyrocketing. Congressional Republicans believe the Trump administration will only try to target violent migrants and thereby leave most migrant workers alone. Still, the initial cost of $86 billion will blow up Republican efforts to lower government spending. As it stands, the Trump team has 2 billionaires, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who are trying to figure out how the U.S. government can spend less, not more. Their goal is $2 trillion less, not hundreds of billions of dollars in spending more. Oops. And forget about the financial cost of starting migrant deportations, which is 8 times the annual budget for the Environmental Protection Agency. Put those financial comparisons aside for a moment. The legal, ethical, and moral aspects of the migrant deportations keep getting worse. The Trump team says it will seek to deport children of undocumented immigrants, even if the kids were born in the United States and are U.S. citizens. Here's part of the report from CBS News.
In the New Jersey city of Englewood, Mayor Michael J. Wilds, who's also an immigration attorney, says members of his community are on edge.
People are very concerned, even people who already achieved the golden grail, a green card or citizenship, are worried.
The operation would detain families and give undocumented parents the choice of leaving children born in the United States behind or being deported with them.
We're dealing here with American citizens who can't speak for themselves.
Is it constitutional?
I don't think so. The administration's going to say, we're not going to separate mom and dads. Mom and dad are It's their privilege if they want to leave with their child. It's a cute way of saying we don't care.
The Trump team does not care about separating families or deporting people, including children who are already citizens. And again, the price tag, just to start this, is 10 times the annual Immigration and Customs Enforcement budget. Now, I get the argument from some conservatives that this will save money in the long run. That argument, for countless reasons, is nonsensical. Because in order to save money on education, housing, and healthcare in the long term, a lot of the 11 million undocumented migrants would have to be deported, not just a tiny fraction. And the more migrant workers that Donald Trump deports, the greater the hit to the U.S. economy. Saving some money, maybe on education and medical care, is going to be nothing compared to the overall cost to U.S. consumers who see product prices go through the roof as the economy tanks. Also, when conservatives keep arguing, as the Trump team has, that we should pay for things now to save money later, well, that actually contradicts Republican philosophies. The Biden administration tried paying more to increase the number of IRS agents so that more tax cheats could be caught, thereby bringing in more government revenue. The extra IRS agents literally bring in more money than they cost. But Republicans are cutting the number of IRS agents, thereby costing the government more in lost revenue. Also, let's just accept for the sake of argument the Trump team claimed that undocumented migrants are the biggest national security threat America faces. Just for a moment, let's just assume that's true, that migrant workers are the biggest security threat. In that case, shouldn't the deportation money come from the Department of Defense budget? The Pentagon gets $850 billion a year. Surely we can find $86 billion to cut from the Department of Defense. Do we really need to develop and modernize the F-22 and other warplanes next year? That's $61 billion. Do we need to construct 9 new Navy Battle Force ships next year? That's $48 billion. How about modernizing our nuclear weapons program? That's $37 billion. I mean, if undocumented migrants are a bigger threat, perhaps the U.S. air, land, and sea military modernization should be put on hold. I mean, it's not like our nuclear weapons, modern warplanes, and Navy ships can help much with deportation. It's all about priorities. Clearly, though, Donald Trump wants to have it all. He wants everything. And so now the question becomes, will Republicans in Congress who claim to care about fiscal responsibility finally tell Donald Trump to make some choices? Or are Republicans going to explode the deficit and risk an economic crash? Because the price tag for starting deportations has finally been revealed, and the cost of Donald Trump's bigotry just at the start is going to be enormous. By the way, Donald Trump recently took a break from targeting Latinos and instead targeted North America's largest mountain. And that stunt is beginning to backfire. The name of the mountain, Denali, pays homage to Native Alaskans, but Donald Trump wants to call it Mount McKinley for President William McKinley.
President McKinley was the president that was responsible for creating a vast sum of money in the United States that Teddy Roosevelt then spent. So let's say they were both excellent presidents, but McKinley did that, and that's one of the reasons that we're going to bring back the name of Mount McKinley, because I think he deserves it.
McKinley never set foot in Alaska, and Alaska's senators, 2 Republicans, are now trashing Donald Trump over his plan. Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Vicky, who wrote, "Donnie disrespecting the history of the indigenous people of Alaska. Ask me if I'm surprised." Well said. I look forward to reading your comments about Donald Trump's deportation plan starting to backfire as the potential cost of his efforts causes sticker shock. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.